threes, 7 touchdowns.
If our defense continues to play as it has, I think we'll see if that's a possibility. I don't think so. I mean, our defense has played well. Our defense has played with the mentality that I talked about, the tough, physical, don't beat yourself kind of mentality, and that's what we got to feed off of. They're already doing it. It's not going to be a hard sell job for them.
Mike, when Joe Philbin was fired in Miami, Dan Campbell came in and gave that team an immediate lift. Why does that sometimes happen in the NFL? A new coach comes in and a team can look drastically different.
I think a lot of it, at least the teams that I've been around, you know, that team had been really in the media, beat down, a lot of negative things about that team, a lot of bad things being said. And I think what they did, what Dan went in there and did, he basically took they took that team's frustration out on us. And the teams that I've been on, the teams that have been successful, when they're frustrated, they don't stay frustrated. They go to the next opponent and they take the frustration out on that next opponent. And I think that's a pretty good example of it.
Mike, what do you think is the morale level right now in your locker room?
Our morale is very good. I mean, with our week of practice last week, I mean, you can tell. I've been on some rosters that the morale is not there. This roster is not, and that's a credit to Rustin, Steve, and Wiz. These guys really prepare well, and the morale is good. It's very good, and you know, they're going to obviously be looking for answers tomorrow morning when they get in this team meeting room, and I'm going to have them for them. But I think it's good. And I think, you know, the tight ends basically said to me, talk to them like you talk to us, and you'll get results. And I have no problem because it's what I believe in. So.
Who's going to be coaching tight ends?
Arthur Smith. Arthur's been with me since the beginning, and you know, Arthur does a lot of the coaching. I let him take his moments, and so I'm very confident in Arthur.
How important is it for a head coach to establish a clarity of direction for the team and just what you're doing?
Well, critical right now because I think they're all wondering where do we go from here? You know, we're a game and a half out of first place in this division and got 9 games to go. I think they need to know tomorrow morning, first time I get up in front of them, they need to see the direction we need to go. So, and then I'll give it to them.
Steve, history suggests that a general manager and a coach who walk through the door together have a better chance at success. Do you see disadvantages to having a GM, not even down there to talk to us today, in position to help hire a new coach and work with him on different timetables, not having that marriage?
Not necessarily, no. You know, I've known Rustin for a good while. You know, Rustin's capable of collaborating pretty much with anyone, and I think he'll do that with whoever our next head coach is, whether it's the man to my left or someone from outside the organization. I'm not at all concerned about that. Rustin understands how that has to work.
Not to be harsh, but in the evaluation of the roster.
You mean you are harsh sometimes?
Your coach, before he walked out the door, said, look at the rosters of other teams that are on the same timetable. That seems to be somewhat of an indictment of talent brought in. Outside of Rustin being a great collaborator, his track record with draft picks and free agents is of the caliber that you want going forward?
You know, I've done a study of that for our ownership and sent that to our controlling owner. Yes, we're pretty comfortable with his record overall. I don't, you know, I've met with Ken on a fairly regular basis, and with Ken and Rustin from time to time. I never heard the indictment that you're talking about. He indicted Rustin's talent choices? That's what you said?
He said, I asked why the pace of progress was so slow compared to some people who were hired on the same timetable. He said, have you looked at their rosters, which suggests he thinks...
Was he talking about injured players or players that were not able to play or were very young and inexperienced?
I think the interpretation of the room was that those coaches inherited teams with better rosters or have built better rosters?
He didn't say anything. He's never said anything like that to me and didn't say anything like that to me this morning.
What do you think of the caliber of the roster now? You're not a football guy, but what are you told by football?
You know, our defense played very well, and our offensive line consists of rookies and people who are relatively inexperienced players for the most part, our tight ends aside. And I think that I'm comfortable. I haven't heard Mike complain about our roster. Everybody wants better players. I think what I said was that the head coach and the general manager need to be on the same page about those decisions. And my understanding is that Ken and Rustin have long been on the same page about personnel decisions.
But
Mike,
along those lines, if they've been on the same lines and if Ken's performance is deemed unsatisfactory, what's the status of evaluating Rustin in that same way?
Well, I think all of us, I think myself, I think Mike and Rustin will all be evaluated for the rest of this season and the performance that we have. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Everybody in our league gets evaluated, every season. I think that a lot will depend on what happens the rest of this season and how our players perform in terms of evaluating Rustin. But he has a record. I think the things that I looked at and provided to our controlling owner led me to believe that his draft picks are about average league-wide in terms of the number of them who are still on our roster and who are playing. We do have some weaknesses here and there, including on the offensive side of the ball. But, we also haven't had our starting quarterback. We have a lot of injuries on the offensive line. All of those things have to be taken into account. And I haven't heard either the current head coach or the former head coach complain about roster decisions that Rustin has made.
Would you consider taking the job full-time if Amy asked you to, and have there been any conversations about that?
There have not been any conversations about that. I want our ownership to feel like they have the option to evaluate everyone that's at the sort of the top level of our organization. If they were to ask me if I wanted to stay, among the things I would consider is that their family has paid me for almost 40 years to work for them. And so how ungrateful would I be to say, no, I'm not going to work for you anymore after the first of the year? I would never do that to them, and neither would anyone else in my position. I'm very loyal to them and to their family, and if they thought enough of me to ask me to stay, well, of course I would consider it. But I would also like for them to have the option to make that decision on their own and to feel free to pick somebody else if that's what they want.
Has Amy and the ownership group reiterated to you that the team is not for sale?
Yes, the team is not for sale. It's never been for sale. I don't know where the stories about the team being for sale came from. They never said the team was for sale. I've never said the team was for sale. On whom are you relying for the notion that the team is for sale?
Dysfunction is it's a question you saying reiterated. Ken was now no longer the head coach. Change is abundant. That's why.
Yeah. No, the team's never been for sale. That's never changed. It's not for sale now.
Mike, have you spoken to Marcus about you taking over as head coach? And if you did, what exactly did he say?
It wasn't a lengthy conversation, but I spoke with him. So I probably have talked to about a dozen players that are in here working out and getting ready for New Orleans. But it was positive. I just told him, we're going to do a couple things different with him, try to make sure he stays upright. And it was really just about not real in-depth, but we're on the same page.
Where's that in the priority change, keeping the quarterback upright, young quarterback, face of the franchise?
Oh, I think, obviously, based on what's happened the last couple of weeks with the protections, that's imperative. That's part of the don't beat yourself mentality of the guy is so accurate. If we can get the ball out like he's capable of doing, I think you'll see a lot of improvements in a lot of different areas, especially in third down. I think that will improve.
Steve, why do you think this franchise has had a hard time getting back up where it once was?
Well, I think among the things, I always look first at the quarterback. We had a great deal of difficulty, for example, part of the time when I was retired, keeping our quarterback healthy. You really don't need to look very far beyond that to figure out, great teams in franchises that succeed long term have elite quarterbacks or near elite quarterbacks. And it takes time to develop one of those. In the case of Jake, he could never stay healthy for very long. And that's always a problem. I don't care how good the rest of your team is. If you don't have the right kind of quarterback, it's hard to succeed long term. We now have another rookie quarterback who's very promising. And I think our future is bright. For that matter, we're still in contention for our division championship, despite where we are in the standings. And the season is not over. I would remind everybody in the room that we're only a game and a half out of first place in our division and still have lots of games left to play. I don't want to put too much pressure on our new head coach, but we're not out of the race at all. And I think that everybody needs to take that into account in judging our team. But to answer your question, so much in our league begins and ends with a quarterback. Yeah, you need a great defense. Our defense is playing very well as they've played in some time. We just need to do better on offense.
Who hired